Here's to you, dear listeners, and welcome to another episode of Metal Gear Mondays, the most thorough Metal Gear podcast on the internet. I am your host, Samurai, and listen, y'all, we got another one. We threw the line out, reeled it back in, and we pulled a Christopher Randolph out of the ocean. But before we get into that, I'm joined by some special people, of course, Alessio Summerfield.
Hey, what's going on? I am a fisher of men, and I caught a Christopher Randolph.
And we are joined by also special correspondent, Otacon superfan, Miss Alice Chang.
Hi. Otacon's definitely like the favorite Pokemon to catch, I guess.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Otacon's the best boy, I think, and this interview just solidified it even more.
Oh yes. Christopher Randolph is a delight to talk to. I don't think that we've not been delighted to talk to anyone. So this introduction is going to be about the same every time, but there's something special that we got to talk to Otacon. Because aside from that weird little stretch with James, we are on record as being humongous fans of Otacon, sweet baby angel Otacon.
I can't believe you told him that we've called him that.
I was
Why
trying
not?
not to laugh so bad.
Why not?
No, it was great.
I don't know. I feel like I wooed you guys into loving Otacon more.
I think
Christopher Randolph wooed me into liking Otacon.
Yeah. I had a very high opinion of Otacon to begin with, but I do think that talking to you has continued to elevate him in my mind. He is a beautiful, beautiful boy. That's a good-looking boy.
We didn't ask one question that I really wanted to ask.
What's that?
Has he ever done the Solid Snake Otacon handshake with David Hayter?
Oh my god, I was going to ask that at the end and I forgot too. Fuck. I wanted to ask that too.
Yeah, Alessio, just ask him when you go get coffee with him in New York.
Yeah, I also my headcanon is that yes, they did that in the booth.
Yeah,
during the recording.
Yeah,
you can do it with him, and I'll record it.
Oh,
yeah, that'd be beautiful.
Live action.
So, with that being said, we talked to Otacon. So before we jump into that, we have to do our thing. But first thing, you can follow Mr. Christopher Randolph on the internet. He is on Twitter. It's at Christoph Ran, ChristopHran. Pro follow that Christopher Randolph on there. Alessio, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me at AC Summerfield, acsummerfield.com. I'm going to be overhauling my website and some other stuff as I get further along with Are You All Right production, which is my short film that I just concluded. And I'm going to have to do that stuff anyway because I got to prep to shop myself around to the TV world in New York. So, that's where you can find me.
And Alice, where can they find you on the internet?
On Instagram at Titwillow, no W.
Yeah.
Did you say Titwillow, no W? Oh, no W at the end. I was like, no W in the middle. What do you mean?
W at the end. There's no W at the end. There's the W in the middle. Confirmed.
You can find me at World Wide Web, no W's.
And I will also vouch. Alice is also a pro follow. She is a tremendous photographer. So you would be remiss if you did not follow her on the Instagram. So check her out.
And come shoot with me. I'm in Philly. I like to come to LA though. Come find me and let's shoot.
Yeah, I'll give you a discounted rate. The place. Yeah,
Metal Gear Mondays discount code.
Yeah, discount code MGM.
Yeah.
This is our official sponsor, our first official sponsorship.
Yeah.
Our first official discount code.
Did I just break a rule by serving that out there?
No.
Really good.
Perfect.
Sam, I misheard you. Instead of vouch, I thought you said vouch. And I was like, what's a vouch?
I don't like that.
You don't want to know.
Anyway, you can find me on Twitter at Sanjul. That's SANJUUL. I tweet things there. And I really would like somebody to talk to me about the the statute of limit. I tweeted this the other day. I want to know what the statute of limitations for tweeting things that I thought were funny but didn't have an audience, and just reusing those jokes on Twitter. So if anybody can like shoot me just like an estimated time frame. I've been on Twitter for 10 years, so there's a lot of like content there that we can dig up. So just let me know. I'd appreciate it at Sangel. And
Sam,
yeah,
where can people find the show?
I see we did it out of order this time. I completely forgot. You can go to metalgearmondays.com. That's where we hold all of our content, links to everything you could possibly want. But we're also on Patreon. It's patreon.com/metalgearmondays, where as little as $1 will get you sweet, sick goodies. Patreon, not Patreon, we have a Discord server. We have a completely additional podcast. We have video content. So check that out. You can also find us on YouTube, youtube.com/metalgearmondays. We're going to start uploading Let's Plays and stuff there within the coming months. So that's going to be really cool. Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Pizza Hut.
Red Robin,
that Red Robin,
Wow.
that toaster on the side of the highway that you saw for some reason is very strange. You can find us in a lot of places. Yeah, Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, podcatchers the world over. You can find us in those places, and please, if you feel inclined, leave us reviews in those places if they allow reviews. No, iTunes does. Leave us an iTunes review. That'd be super cool. And yeah, I think that's about it. We have an Instagram. We have a store, bit.ly/MGM store. So there's a lot of places you could go.
Yeah, Sam designs all those T-shirts. I own one of them. They're great.
I also own one of them. I own that It's Just a Box T-shirt now.
Yeah, I have a sticker of Isaac that just says "Fumbling in the Dark with Isaac" when I'm stuck onto my refrigerator. So.
Are you taking that refrigerator with you, or are you going to have to find a way to peel that off of there?
Well, I didn't stick it on. I magnetized it on.
That's a better idea.
Oh, yeah. So I'm leaving my appliances. If anybody's in the market for a house in St. Louis, hit your boy up.
Discount code MG.
Yeah. Discount code. We'll shave $35 off this $150,000 house.
That's amazing.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think that's about it. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to say before we go into our interview with Christopher Randolph?
I want to say one thing real quick. Alice, welcome to your first interview episode.
Yeah.
I loved having you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I was so nervous because I'm hella in love with Otacon, so yeah.
Same.
I'll fight you for him.
Wow.
I don't know if I want to fight. Would Otacon fight?
Can love really blossom on the podcast field?
Why didn't we ask him that? I wanted to ask him if love could really bloom on a battlefield.
Well,
that's amazing. Yeah. We should just dive into it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Look out, Snake! The guys who stole my stealth prototypes are in there with you.
So so Christopher, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being on the show.
My pleasure. I'm very happy to be here.
Very nice. I kind of want to get us started with this interesting tidbit that I found. I know that a majority of the folks that we've spoken to, Cam Clark, David Hayter, a lot of these folks are all West Coast based. Right. But I noticed that you're very much so an East Coast guy. Can you tell me a little bit about how like, were you in LA for Metal Gear? Have you always been East Coast?
I was living in Los Angeles during most of the 90s, and I kind of stumbled into the Metal Gear universe because I had actually taken an animation acting class because, you know, in the sort of mid to late 90s, that was what voice acting was about, really, was much more animation than the whole, the whole computer game thing just kind of exploded just a little later after that. And the class was taught in part anyway by Chris Zimmerman Salter. And it had been recommended to me, interestingly, by Jennifer Hale, who I'm sure you guys know or know of, who I was in a normal acting class with, and Jennifer and I were chatting, and she said she was doing VO for Dell, I think, at the time, and was like, you should take this class. Chris Zimmerman's really wonderful, and so I went and took the class, and I really enjoyed it. It was also taught by a guy named Charlie Adler, who does a lot of animation voice. Um, all sorts of goofy characters. Cow and Chicken. He plays
Oh
both.
yeah.
Yeah.
He plays both Cow and Chicken and the Devil in Cow and Chicken. So
Oh
that'll
my.
give you a sense of how crazy he was. So that was great. And then maybe I think less than 6 months after that class ended, Chris called me up and said, I'm casting this weird game thing, and none of us really know what it is, but do you want to come in and audition? And I said, sure. So that's kind of how I stumbled into it. And then I remained in LA until I came back to New York about the end of 2000. And I think because, obviously the first game was such a hit, and the character was such a big deal that they asked me back, and we over the years worked out. Most of the recording is done in LA, so we worked out my getting back there and all of that.
So you did travel back and forth. You didn't do it
I
all
did.
remote?
No, I did. Well, mostly I traveled back and forth, and I think honestly, at first, I'm trying to remember. I think for Metal Gear 2, I think I actually paid my own way, but I had so many friends in LA that I could go back. I had places to stay for free, and I was able to visit with friends and stuff, and also do the recording sessions, which I was definitely paid for. But and then after that, we negotiated travel into the deal for the rest of the games. Occasionally, we would do a remote from New York. We did 2 or 3 of those, but usually it was kind of stuff we were just picking up, so it could be done quickly. It's easier to be in the same room. It's easier for Chris, and it's sort of easier for me too, and for the actor, because your voice director is really, really important, and you just have a more direct connection with them and what's going on if you can see them through the glass window.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know Sam and I actually got to meet David Hayter and Cam Clark in the flesh.
Oh yeah.
Fairly recently, and I know we attended some of their panels, and David and
Mm-hmm.
Cam were both very, even though I guess in the modern digital age, it's easy to kind of do remote work. They were very adamant about like the magic happening in the studio. And so that's why I wanted to ask what it was like to kind of be on a different coast and still work on Metal Gear.
Yeah, no, most of the time I would travel. And it's interesting, and maybe David and Cam brought this up, but the other thing about recording these things is very often you're alone in the booth, and you're recording your parts to parts that have already been recorded by someone else, or in fact, I'm acting with Chris reading the lines to me, But in my opinion, some of the best scenes in Metal Gear were when the actors were all in the room together. And you can't, I think early on, David and I did a lot in the booth together, and Jennifer and I have played some love scenes in the booth together, and there is something about really genuinely playing off of each other that brings more life to the work, I think. So it's a pity they can't do that all the time.
Yeah, because we've heard a lot of stories about how everybody being together is more common in like cartoon and animation as opposed to video games, and so Metal Gear was one of the first kind of experiences like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Metal Gear, if you think about it, really, Metal Gear was one of the first experiences that involved, characters. in the sort of modern computer game era, you know. Um, and I'm sure you've heard this from your other guests in the past, but you know, when we did the first game, we were just doing the English version of the Japanese game that had already been recorded. Um, and then after that, we were actually they were actually wrapping the game around our voices, which was a different process, you know.
What was that evolution like?
Well, uh, interesting. The technological evolution was actually really interesting to chart because, of course, I'm sure you've all heard the story about the beat up studio where we
Yeah.
recorded first, where the truck would go by and we'd have to stop, and there was no glass between us and the technicians, and so everybody had to be really, really quiet. Um, but you know, I remember Metal Gear 2 suddenly there was an algorithm, I guess, where they recorded all of us saying a series of words, and they could plug that into the computer, and based on that, then the animated character's mouth would move depend to our voice depending on whatever we said, which was a whole new advancement. Um, and now, of course, it's all motion capture, you know, or facial capture. So they're literally filming you. Um, so it's you know it's looking realer and realer, and the um, you know it's a different challenge for the actors each time, I think.
Right. When you recently worked on Red Dead Redemption 2 specifically doing
Yeah.
motion capture stuff, how different is that from the house in Hollywood with the dump truck
Oh man,
outside?
I can't even tell you. You know, and you know, Rockstar's New York base is, um, you know, they have a huge 3-floor warehouse down in in Lower Manhattan with I think they have seemed like anyway they had 4 or 5 sound booths, but then they also out on Long Island have this extra large basketball court sized motion capture studio. So that was interesting, and I really only did a little bit of motion capture for them because it was such a long project, and I was not playing a major role in that. Um, but I went out and did a day of motion capture, and then like a year and a half later, they tried to get me back for more motion capture, and I had I had just
Oh
had a
wow.
hip replacement. Um,
Whoa.
so I was like, I told the agent, look, I can't guarantee that I can do what they want me to do because I'm not at full physical strength. I am now, but at the time I wasn't. So what they wound up doing was getting someone else to do the motion capture, and then they brought me in later that year for a really long and intense voice session.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
so some of my voice matched my motion capture, and some of it matched somebody else's motion capture.
So so you grew up on the East Coast, correct?
Yes.
So what what was your family background like when you were growing up, and when you decided to break into the industry? How did your family react to that?
You know, um, I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and we grew up in suburban Boston. My dad's a doctor; he's retired now. Um, and we went to a really, I anyway, and my siblings too went to a really good kind of private elementary school that had a really brilliant theater director. I mean, she was also an English teacher, but she was just superb at kind of teaching youngsters about stage acting, and I got really, really hooked on it in very early on, 5th grade, basically. and then wound up being in all the school plays through ninth grade, and then I went off to boarding school for 10th, 11th, 12th, and did just a ton of theater where I was there. So I was hooked on it early on, and it was always what I was going to do in my own head. Um, so that was how that started. And actually, my parents were very supportive, surprisingly so. And I think I influenced because my younger sister is a superb actor who went to
Wow.
Juilliard and does a lot of theater and has been in movies and a bunch of other things. She's based in Western Massachusetts in the Berkshires. But and my and it went from there. My younger brother is a rock and roll musician. So it's
Wow.
kind of, I think to some degree, my parents have always gone, where did we go wrong? Because none of us has really a normal job. But so it was the enjoyment of the art was how it started. And then I didn't major in it in undergraduate college. I just got a general education, which was frustrating to me at the time, but I wound up being very happy about it, particularly when I started directing about 10 years ago, where the sort of ways of thinking and learning how to analyze literature and stuff like that came in really handy. And I also write, so that was very valuable. So undergrad, I just got an English degree, and then I went to graduate school and got a master's degree at UCSD. They have a superb professional actor training program down in San Diego. So I did 3 years there, got a master's, and then moved to New York. And it was always theater and film and television was always the goal. The whole voice acting thing was I had never even heard of it until the late '90s.
That's awesome. Christopher, have you've also been a teacher, right?
Yeah, I have taught. I have taught a little bit. I've taught and coached. I'm not doing that now, but I would like to get back into that again. I enjoy that. I enjoy that, and I find when I've been directing theater, which I have been doing a fair amount, as I say, over the last 9 or 10 years. Often it's sort of a way of disguising teaching in terms of acting, and I'm a firm believer that actually the best way to learn about acting is to put on a play. You know, studio work is great, but to put on a play or also to make a movie, which now you can do on your phone. So yeah, I do teach, and occasionally I'll private coach, and I do script consulting, which a bunch of people sending me plays and film scripts to sort of offer my 2 cents about it. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. I know before Metal Gear, clearly, you had a little bit of a career sort of doing on-screen roles. Obviously, you were in like Doogie Howser and News
Yeah,
Radio and Mad About
yeah,
You.
yeah.
Uh, the interesting thing is just kind of charting the and we always end up going down a deep hole, kind of
Sure.
looking at everybody's career, kind of charting the dates and like the years that you were active. It seemed like I don't know. It seemed like there was sort of like a gap of time between those and then Metal Gear, and obviously you were taking classes and stuff. But were you working on things in between that made?
What I was doing is theater, which is kind of doesn't show up in your research. I mean, when I got out of grad school, I immediately moved to New York City and began to try and sort of work my way into the industry there. And I did, wound up doing a lot of theater, mostly regional theater, where you get hired in New York City and then you go to St. Louis or Rochester or wherever, and you live for 3 months or something like that, and you rehearse and put on a show, and then you go back home to New York and start all over again. A lot of actors do this, and you can make a good living at it. And sometimes that it can lead to other things. If you there are some theaters that sometimes will do production that will feed into New York and the commercial theater, and that can be really advantageous. But it's a great way to get experience and to do what you love doing. Um, so I was in New York till about 91, 92, and I decided to give LA a try. I really didn't have a whole lot of connections out there. I had a few, but not a lot. So I just kind of picked up and moved out there, which is, looking back on it, kind of outrageous and may have been a mistake career wise on some levels. But I did it, and I, sort of plumbed the connections I could find and managed to kind of get those little roles that you mentioned here and there. But the fact is, what I really wanted to do was film and television, and the whole reason for going out to LA was that. And I really, honestly, had a lot of trouble setting up the kind of support system you need in order to do that in LA. You got to have an agent who's supporting you, probably a manager too, and they have to really work for you, because you can't really get in the door on your own in Los Angeles. It's different in New York. You can do a lot on your own in New York. I found LA very difficult for that sort of thing. So
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah,
considering where I'm going.
And what I was doing, instead was doing theater in LA with the thought that, maybe someone would come and see and then, recognize my brilliance and help me get on TV. And so I did a lot of theater during those years in the 90s, that some of which was just god awful, and some of which was really, really good, I have to say. And had it been anywhere else than LA, it might have really made a difference. But Los Angeles has a ton of theater, and nobody really cares about it that much. I don't mean to, no, I mean, I have to be cautious about that. I don't mean to slam LA or the theater, because there's very good theater that goes on in LA. But what I discovered, at least for me in my experience, is that very often the theater in LA is a bunch of people hoping to get seen so they can get into film and television, which is absolutely reasonable and understandable. But it's it just creates a different vibe around the project you're doing. And then other theater is often a vehicle for people who are already in film and television to just sort of do something, flex their muscles in a different way. And then you kind of have stars doing things at theaters in LA. Now, Mark Taper Forum is an exception, and the Amundsen, which is mostly shows that come in from outside. But I don't know. I found it very difficult to move from the theater things I did, for people to see that and translate it in their brains to putting me in front of a camera. Now, that may have something to do with me.
Oh, no.
I don't know. But I met with agents who had come to see me in theater, and they happily met with me. And I had people literally say to me, "You are such a good actor. I wish I could help you."
Oh, no.
And I would go, "Well, why?" And they go, "Well, no one else in the office goes to theater, and you're X age, and you haven't done this and that, and it's really, really difficult." And then. So, I think if you're looking at IMDb and you're looking at gaps before Metal Gear, it's all about that.
It's interesting to hear you say all that, because I feel like somehow I think I was the film kid in college who was friends with all the theater people.
Sure.
And somehow it's like all of my theater friends are all East Coast, or I've noticed it's like Kansas City has like a
Yeah.
huge theater
Sure.
presence, and then like now it's like I know people who teach like in Geneva, New York, who teach in the theater department
Sure.
at the school there, and so it's like
Sure.
I feel like the theater scene seems to be very East Coast, and I don't. It's interesting to hear
Yeah.
your take on that.
Well, I think if you look, the theater scene is all over. There's a huge theater scene in LA. Um, there's a lot going on. The question is, are you getting paid to do it?
Right.
And is it something that's going to move a career forward or not? And I mean, there's tremendous theater in St. Louis. I've worked in St. Louis at the Rep there, and
Yeah.
all over the country, most cities have at least one regional theater presence, and it's great. It's fantastic, and it doesn't pay very much to the people who work there, but you can practice your craft and have a really good time and meet people, and you do get paid enough to live. Um, but I mean, LA's a movie town, and LA's. I had a theory actually. I had a theory about LA theater, and my theory is this. I think one of the problems with LA theater, and this could get me into trouble, is that there's no central, uh, really good venue for theater criticism, or at least when I was there wasn't. So there was no article you could read somewhere on the web or in the Times or wherever where you would get a really good assessment about whether a play was good or not. And what happens is people in LA work really hard, and y'all know what the traffic is like. And you work until 6 or 6:30 at night, and you have to travel somewhere to make an 8 o'clock curtain. You don't really have time to eat anything. You spend a lot of effort and sort of traffic anxiety getting there. And then you watch the show, and if the show isn't good, and you don't know much about theater, and you read in the Times or somewhere that the show was good, and you get there and you don't really enjoy it, you say to yourself, I must not like theater. These people are telling me this is good. I don't get it. All this time and energy I took to come and see this show, I didn't really enjoy it. I don't understand it. So theater's not for me. And then that's it. You've sort of lost theater goers.
Yeah, I think that makes
So
sense.
I don't know that's again, I haven't lived in LA in quite a while, so that may have changed. But it is a thing. There's an important role for criticism uh, because of that. We need to know what to make an effort to go see.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have a preference in what you do as far as like? Do you prefer doing voice acting, or do you prefer on screen, or do you prefer motion capture, or like the mechanics of theater? Do you prefer that as an example?
Yeah, no, I know what you're asking. I mean, I think what I like is being able to do them all, and the skill required to translate my abilities to each of these different technical mediums, because really, acting is acting, I think, and you just have to adjust the way you approach it depending on how it's being done. There's a really interesting article just recently, interview with Tom Hanks about the new Toy Story movie, and he talks about what it's like to voice act, because they keep asking him about that, and he actually goes in he's amazingly talented man, but he goes into the way he approached voice acting as opposed to other kinds of acting, and what the difference is, and how you have to adjust your approach. And so that's really true. And so I like being able to do it all, is the answer to your question.
So in that case, like, what led you to Metal Gear? Why Metal Gear?
Well, as I say, Metal Gear, I just stumbled onto Metal Gear. I stumbled on because Chris Zimmerman called me and said, we're auditioning. And I didn't have anything else going on, and they were gonna pay me. So I went in and auditioned, and because I had taken her class, I was at least a little bit familiar with what it's like to be in the booth. And I've told this story before, so you all have probably heard it. But I initially auditioned for Snake, and I was, I did my best.
Can you give us your best Snake?
I was about to leave. Well, you want to hear
your best solid Snake?
Well, the problem is now that it's just me imitating David Hayter.
Right,
I can't remember what I was trying to do. And so, but I was about to leave the booth after that audition, and Chris said, "Hold on." And I looked through the glass, and there was a little conference going on. And then she walked into the booth again with a different script and a different character. They what they do sometimes is they bring you a picture of the character, so you can see what they look like, and you can try and just use your imagination to base a voice on that picture. So she brought in a picture of Otacon, and at the time, he kind of had longish hair, which my hair was longer than it is now, and he was wearing those round wire rim glasses, which I wore, and he has kind of a long face. It just looked like me, and I was like, "Whoa, what is this?" So I read for that, and got it. So then we went and recorded. But it wasn't that I specifically selected Metal Gear. It selected me.
What were your feelings about Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead, Alice.
I was just kind of curious, like, what your feelings were when you were first reading the script, and because I feel like back then it was pretty unique to begin with.
Absolutely, no question. It was totally unique, and I think all of us, certainly me, we were all trying to make heads or tails of it, because it, first of all, it was like 2,000 pages long, and they kind of didn't really send us the whole script. Of course, now they never send you the whole script. Mm-hmm. And of course, all the different options, you have to record. If the player decides to go left, you say one thing. If they go right, you say another. And how that was all written down on the script, it was all very new to me. So I was just kind of winging it, honestly. And I think to some degree we all were. I don't know. David Hayter might dispute. But, so
David is David.
So after,
So
after that, so obviously the story of you recorded in this house with the trucks and everything like that. After, did you expect the series to blow up like it did after you recorded? There's been some people.
No.
Yeah, there's been some people on record of saying that like David knew, but like I was trying to figure out if anybody else knew that it would become that.
Well, David was always a kind of a gamer himself, and it's possible that he didn't know, but of course, no one can ever know. I'm sure when he says that, and when other people say that, it's that he suspected. Mm-hmm. He knew what the market was, and understood that this was a unique project. And I think I also understood this was a unique project, and if it succeeded, it struck me it would be really, really cool. But I didn't understand the extent of the kind of gamer population, if you will. I didn't realize there were that many people who were really into this kind of thing. So I remember we finished recording, and then there was quite a long time. I don't know, 6 or 8 months or something before the game came out, maybe even longer, because it was already out in Japanese. So, and that's also maybe why David knew, because he speaks Japanese. He lived there, so he probably had a stronger sense of how popular it was over there. But I do remember after, at a certain point hearing that it was coming out, and I remember, stopping off at the magazine stands and looking for gamer magazines and looking for a review, and I began to find reviews of it, and they were just over the top positive. It was like, wow. So then I went out and bought a PlayStation and tried to do it.
So now, after all the dust is settled, Metal Gear Solid 5 came out several years ago, and unfortunately, since David wasn't cast in the series, you have the most voice credits for the series.
See, now I saw that. I saw that you felt that way, but are you taking into account Metal Gear 3, which I am not in?
Oh,
that's true.
Is that why it was the worst one?
No,
No.
I'm just kidding. I love 3.
So if you balance those out, I suspect David and I are even. I don't know. But certainly, I feel really fortunate that Otacon and then his wonderful father, Huey, are these sort of consistent mainstays in the story of the game. I think that's really cool.
That's awesome. I wanted to ask, is there a reason why you've stuck so close to Metal Gear? Because I think I don't know, the obvious response would be because they pay, I guess. But what keeps you coming back? Because it's a long, from 1998 to 2015, you've voiced essentially the same character.
Yes. Well, obviously I'm doing other things in between, and I love this series and I love the characters. So, there's no reason to not come back. There's no reason for me whatsoever. And I love the work. I think, I'm at a real disadvantage for voice acting for games in living in New York City. Almost all of that work is in LA. So, and I have, not all of it, but almost all of it. I was able to get a thing, as you say, in Red Dead Redemption, and I'm in Mafia 3 in smaller parts, and I have friends who live in New York who, my friend Xanthi Elbrick is the Grand Inquisitor in the Star Wars thing, and so it can happen. But David and Jennifer and Cam, they live in the place where it's all happening, and so they're auditioning. Although at this level, they don't even have to audition probably, and they're there. They're there to do it. No other game is going to fly me to Los Angeles to record it. Sadly, Metal Gear probably would. If they wanted consistency in the character. But yeah, why not go back? It's a cool game. It's so amazing. And it's this kind of Byzantine storyline that just goes on and on and on. And Otacon particularly, and I haven't played Otacon in a long time, is just a really unique character. And I really like him,
How did you feel when, for all intents and purposes, I guess the series came to an end?
Yeah, that's sad. I'm really sorry about that, and I think there are a whole bunch of reasons for that. The Konami split with Mr. Kojima is part of it, and the his moving on to other things, and I think the move towards, games that don't take 4 years to make.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't imagine there's not a market for another Metal Gear game.
Oh, there's definitely a market
they
for
want,
it.
yeah, no, if they wanted
Yeah.
to, and for years they've been kicking around the whole feature film idea, and I think it's still kicking around, and I would love to see that too. It's doubtful that would ever involve me, but there's so many opportunities for story.
So you I think I might know the answer to this question, but do you prefer Hal or Huey?
Well. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, Hal was first, and Hal is wonderful, and he was absolutely what I prefer. But playing Huey was really wonderful, and it's a wonderful thing to play really morally complicated characters. It's very exciting, and any actor will tell you that, really. So, and I can't really see Huey coming back necessarily in another game, but Hal, I think there's so many opportunities for Hal. I mean, you can put him in all sorts of games. You could probably build a game around Hal.
I would buy
we've
that
been on
game.
record.
Yeah.
We've been on record. I think
that
"Sweet
game.
Baby Angel" is something we've called Hal on occasion. I think there's a lot of we're big fans of Otacon on this podcast.
Well, I'm really glad. I'm really, yeah. No, but I mean, it's funny because Huey, in Peace Walker, Huey is different. He's not what he is in Metal Gear 5.
Agreed.
And that was very interesting to me because because when we were recording 5, I wasn't always completely sure, what side I was on, and they wouldn't tell me always, And as I say, you don't ever get the whole script. So there was one point, and I wonder if I don't know if Chris remembers it, but where I said, "Am I a good guy or a bad guy?" And I don't think there was any answer. I don't think there was any answer, and I think it was really actually advantageous to the performance that I not necessarily know.
So there wasn't like any specific directions, like we're taking him in a more antagonistic direction, or
No, not at all. No, there were times where there were a couple things where I would need to know, like if Huey was out and out lying, like I needed to know that, and so I had to really push Chris and the guys in the booth to get the answer to that. But every character in any dramatic situation believes that they are doing the right thing, for whatever reason. Even Hannibal Lecter believes that he's doing the right thing. And you have to play them that way. I mean, all human beings are the heroes in their own adventure, and it's astounding what people will justify, what actions people will justify. So, and you just have to remember that as an actor. I mean, you don't want to play a character as a bad person.
Right. An original rumor that I remember floating around shortly after 5 came out was that, and I can't remember who it was. I think it was like some sort of like friend advisor to Kojima, or somebody said something in some Japanese interview that I guess Huey was supposed to play a much bigger role in Metal Gear Solid 5 originally. I just wanted to ask if you were aware of that, or if you recorded things that
no, I was never aware of that, and They just, as I say, they don't really tell you. You know,
Right.
they contact you. They ask you if you want to do the character in the project, and you say yes. And then they give you sort of an initial window of dates for initial recording, and then you just have no idea. Um, it took at least 3 or 4 years to record all of that. I mean, and they were trying to work around Kiefer Sutherland's schedule, and and it was a very complicated technical thing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It's an extraordinary game. Um, I would have loved to have Huey play more of a role. I find Huey a fascinating character, but I prefer Otacon.
Of course.
I mean,
Of course. Yeah. And I guess the reason why I was asking was because I wasn't sure, considering that the rumor came from like an advisor sort of friend. I wasn't sure if that was meant to be that Huey had a bigger role on paper before it got started, or if you had a big role and then they decided in post to cut scenes.
Oh, I see what you're asking. Well, it must have been on paper because pretty much everything I recorded wound up in there.
Gotcha.
And I think I only did 4, maybe 5 sessions. I mean, you can cover a lot of ground in a session. Maybe it was more, it might have been 6, but yeah, to my memory, and I haven't played the game all the way through, but I've watched my 16-year-old cousins play it. And I've gone on YouTube and look at the cutscenes. Pretty much everything that I recorded made it in there.
That's awesome. I wanted to. Sorry, I was clearing my throat. I apologize. I wanted to ask a question on behalf of one of our listeners, Tori Cortez. She wrote in to the show and asked us to ask you,
Yeah.
Did any of Hal's extremely emotional scenes take a toll on you? How did you handle them, and how do you prepare for Hal's emotional side? And I think she means in reference to Metal Gear Solid 2.
I'm sure she does. Yeah, and the answer is yeah. It does take a toll. You get it's the same as other acting. You have to, but it's the same as other acting, except you have to really imagine it all. It all has to be in your head, So the death of one's sister, for example, is a big deal, and so, yes, it took a bit of an emotional toll. It certainly took a physical toll. I remember having to kind of sob, until Chris Zimmerman told me to stop, which was way longer than I felt like I wanted to do it.
Wow.
And I have to say, I've seen some Reddit threads where people are like, Otacon's such a baby and how annoying, and
Get out of here with that
Randolph
nonsense.
cries, he cries at the drop of a hat and all that stuff. So, I think that stuff doesn't appeal to everybody, but certainly Hal is a very sensitive person, and he's had a lot of lousy things happen. A lot of people have died in his life, and he's sensitive to that. And so, yeah, I mean, the answer, Tori, is yes.
Yeah, so to piggyback off that, we often talked about on the show how Otacon might be like the most tragic character in the series. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts on that, playing him for so long.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never sort of thought about it like that, but you're probably right, at least on paper. He has had the most, terrible things happen to him. For me, what's been cool about playing him over such a long period of time is that I think in the writing, he's grown. He started out really young and with a kind of an innocence, and I think as you look at him over the course of the series, he's he's grown from experience, and the way we all do. I mean, if you're around long enough in life, you're going to get knocked around a bit, and you kind of take that and you find some wisdom from that. I think if you're lucky and you're smart. And I think what makes Hal increasingly interesting is all these things that happen to him over the course of the series. And at this point, I think he probably has a wisdom along with all the wounds that he's carrying.
Yeah, and I think that probably also contributed due to like his relationship with Snake and like the bromance that they had.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah,
how do you feel about like that transition from Snake meeting Otacon in a locker peeing himself to being like the most hardcore bromance in maybe video game history?
Yeah, I think it probably is, and I think it's really cool, and particularly at the end of Metal Gear 1, if you played it right and we get to ride off on a snowmobile together, it was
so cute.
There's always a little something going on there that was questionable. But
I always killed Meryl so I could ride off with Otacon.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, good.
Uh-oh, that's out there now.
I think it's an amazing relationship. It's an amazing buddy relationship that's very unusual, and they both really care for each other. And I mean, I think, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think there's anybody who really cares for Snake in that way other than Otacon.
I've never thought of it like that. I think you're absolutely right.
I don't think Snake has anyone who sort of emotionally understands him and is connected to him.
Yeah.
At least
That's
no
so
character that's still alive in the series, So I think that's cool, and I just, again, I think there's a lot to build on there. You could just go on and on and on with these stories. So it would be fun to see another game.
Yeah, I want to see what happens with Sonny's two
I was going to say. What do you think? What do you think they went off to do after 4 ended?
Yeah, good question. I have no answer there. It's up to the imagination.
When you were recording, so we've talked a little bit about like the evolution of the process of recording. We've talked to a couple of people, and it seems like the original was recorded in like such a short amount of time, whereas 4 took about 9 months to do. And I don't know if you can correct us on that or not, but is that because the scripts got bigger and a little bit more complex, or is it because the process changed, or what was it like scaling up like that?
I mean, I don't remember how long it took to do 2, and of course I really only know the parts that I had to go and do. There's a lot of Otacon in 2, because there's all those codec calls. I think it was an upscaling of the technological process, and I think the scripts got longer. As the cut scenes got sort of more involved. 4 was almost over the top in terms of long cut scenes, and so I think the success of the first one, Mr. Kojima really just wanted to run with it, and he and his team and their imaginations really, I think, were like, how far can we take this? And because it had been such a success, I think they were allowed more time and probably a bigger budget to do the successive ones. So that would be my guess anyway.
I wanted to ask Christopher, were there, just given how we asked David, given his experience with screenwriting, what his thoughts were on the scripts, and he gave a very like political answer, or very like non-political answer, where he was like, "Well, I wouldn't write him like that."
Right.
I wanted to ask you, were there any lines while you were reading that you just found to be really funny, or that tripped you up?
You know, I'm sure there were. I honestly don't remember them.
Okay.
You know, a lot of what Otacon was doing, particularly early on, was kind of doing the technical specs of the weaponry and all of that, and that sometimes was really hard to just put in my mouth. The storylines were, I don't know, yeah, sometimes they were a little out there. And I mean, you kind of had to put your head into the world that was there. So like, the awkward love scene that how to do, that was, it was, there's a touch of goofy, which I didn't mind, because it's kind of part of the sensibility. I'm certain that David's right, that he would not have written the scripts that way.
How did you feel about all of Otacon's love interests throughout the series? Because he's had some interesting ones.
My heart is always with Sniper Wolf.
Yes,
yes,
me too.
And I think it's it's partly just because of Tasia Flynn's performance, but it's also I don't know. It just that whole scene, in the snow with the howling wolves in the background, and it was something really kind of magical about that. And Otacon kneeling by her body and yelling at Snake, "What are we fighting for?" All of that is. I just thought that was great. So yeah. She's number one in my mind. But none of them went very well for Otacon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except for Snake.
I don't know what you mean, Christopher.
So I imagine that moment with Wolf in the snowfield is probably up there, but in a similar vein, do you have any other favorite moments or any from recording, or any quotes that you really love from Otacon or Huey that you remember fondly?
Well, sure. Certainly that scene is a favorite. I think I'm trying to remember now, that I think the end of 4, was pretty amazing, where old Snake is dying, and Otacon is kind of trying to talk to Sonny. That's kind of a very powerful scene. And I always liked the humor that Otacon brought, as goofy as it was sometimes. So, some of the kind of weird Chinese proverbs with Mei Ling and all of that was, and I don't know if they really hold up now, but at the time, that was really, really fun and fun to play, for sure. And as to Huey, I don't know. I think his ambivalence. Well, that's not the right word, is it? His trial scene was pretty extraordinary, and where he, getting lowered on the boat and all of that was pretty powerful stuff, because you're playing. I mean, at that point, you're kind of playing a guy who really knows he's made some mistakes, but is also I think he's also, not wrong in the things that he's yelling at Snake
Yeah.
and that team.
Yeah, I think like Peace Walker is probably on record as like one of my favorite games in the series, and
Uh-huh.
and particularly because of the characters, I
Yeah.
think of all of the sort of like, and I don't know, it's not really like a side game, but of all of the sort of like spin-offy kind of games that most people haven't played,
Yeah.
it's got so much meat to it.
Yeah.
And so for me to see Huey kind of become what he became in 5, I was
Yeah.
just like thoroughly bummed out.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone. I mean, a lot of people were, and there were a couple of interviews I did right after 5 came out, and it was almost instant. Like, what is up with Huey? Come on. Yeah, he really did change from, and I don't know this for sure, but I'm assuming that the kind of concept of who he was changed between Peace Walker and 5. I mean, meaning Kojima's concept of who he was and where he fit into the sort of overall storyline.
Right. What's the I'm always curious just because like I guess on paper it's like Hal and Huey look very similar. They have a
Mhm.
very similar way of talking.
Yeah.
From like an acting perspective though, I mean, did you have a different process to kind of become Hal versus getting in the mindset to be Huey?
Uh,
And was that different between Peace Walker and 5?
yeah, no, we did have to. I mean, we did have to find a different approach. You know, and they've I don't know. Hal, at least initially, Hal had a higher pitched voice
Mhm.
than what you're hearing me speak as now.
Mhm.
And as he got older, it began to drop a little bit. With Huey, I think we talked about it. Chris and I talked about it a little bit before we even started with him. I think the idea was really he was just much more my normal voice. And that really the difference in the characters was less about the sound of the voice than just just the personality, the attitude, and personality of them. And that for me really came mostly out of the writing. You it's really funny because there's such a huge space between doing these characters. Sometimes there's like 2 years, and then they call you and they want to hear Otacon. They want you to do Otacon again. And I remember when I went back to do 2, or maybe even when it was going, because it was even longer until we did 4. I I didn't know if I still knew how to do Otacon.
Oh wow.
Oh no.
Whoa.
And they what they would do was they would play some old tapes of him, and I just run through a few lines, and it just would come right back, and Chris would go, there he is, there he is. And it's less about the tone, the pitch of the voice or any manipulation I'm doing than it is just a kind of attitude. It's the Otacon attitude towards life.
I love that. That's amazing. So Christopher, we are now at our sort of time, and we want to be
Okay.
respectful of your time. So we're gonna kind of get to the end of the road here. But
Sure.
we always want to ask all of our guests, kind of not only what they've got upcoming and stuff like that, but we love to ask everybody kind of what they do for fun. And so
What do I
yeah,
do?
we were curious. Do you have any hobbies or anything?
Well, if you were to look on my Instagram page, which you're all welcome to do, you would see about 30 pictures of pies,
Yes.
uh,
Ooh.
and a whole bunch of loaves of bread. So
What?
I love to cook, and I'm constantly baking. Usually in the summer I'm making pies a lot, less so in the winter. And so I love to cook, and when I come visit my parents, I'm kind of the family cook. So I'll be cooking dinner pretty much as soon as we stop talking.
That's amazing.
So I enjoy that, and I enjoy being outside. You know, I grew up I'm here in this house, and we're on Cape Cod actually, or near Cape Cod. We're right on the water, and I grew up, spending summers here and swimming and sailing and all of that kind of stuff, and I really enjoy that. Um, and of course, I go to the theater a lot, and I read, and what else? Bake pie.
Hey,
You're an amazing human being, Chris.
What's your
Thank you.
favorite kind of pie to
yes.
make?
Great question. Well, I think I would say that the most requested pie among friends and family is
Yes.
blueberry.
That's actually in your
I
Twitter
have,
bio, I believe.
yeah, I'm sure it is. Yes, it is. That's right. That's exactly right. So for sure. But I always enjoy, and I haven't done it yet because it's been so cold and rainy. But usually in the, beginning of the summer, I usually make a strawberry rhubarb, and I
Yes.
really enjoy it. That's
Oh,
an
Yeah,
awesome.
that's my wife's favorite pie.
Yeah, there we go. Well, so that would be my answer to that.
Very cool.
nice.
Amazing.
Christopher, do you have anything upcoming that you're allowed to tell us about, or anything you would like our listeners to know, where to find you, all kinds of that, anything like that?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I don't have any real upcoming projects at the moment. There's a bunch of things in the works. It's mostly theater, which, if you're in the New York area, you can just keep an eye out.
I'll be there.
Certainly, you can find me on my Twitter, which is Christopheran, at Christopheran. And anything that's going on would get posted there. But I'm working on there's some writers I'm working with who have a number of scripts going on, and I'm trying to get in there and audition. I really this year I'm really trying to make a push towards film and television. There's so much that is shooting in New York City, so if I can get myself on one of those shows, it'll be on my Twitter feed for sure.
That's awesome.
Please watch.
Very cool.
Sam, do you wanna tell Chris about our
Yes.
tradition?
Okay, so since episode 1 of this podcast, we've done about, not including the interview episodes we've done about 124 episodes of the show, and
Wow, good.
and ever since episode 1, our outro, in the original Metal Gear Solid game, when a guard spots Snake in a box, and they dismiss it, they go, "It's just a box." So our gag has been that we try and meander our way to saying "it's just a box" to close out the show, and we were wondering if we could have Otacon do that for us on this instance.
Sure. No question. Do you have any context for that, or you just say you
I
just
think
say
we kind of invent the context, and apparently people think it's
Oh,
funny.
okay.
So we, it's whatever you feel like doing, we're okay with.
Well, I'll tell you. I'll tell you. It's funny actually because I'm at my parents' house, and my dear mother has actually bought a bunch of new summer furniture, and so there are a whole bunch of boxes lying around the house. And I think if Otacon were to sneak downstairs at night for a snack, he might, I don't know, he might see something in the shadows and be scared and say something like, "Snake, what's that? Oh, don't worry, it's just a box."
Just a box.